Okay, so hello, I'm Nancy. Um, I'm Nancy Keane of Birthright Hypnobirthing in Aylesbury. I'm also a member of the Bucks Maternity Voices Partnership. And Emma's asked if I will come and do a little taster introduction session about hypnobirthing. So I thought what I'd do is a quick overview of what hypnobirthing is and what it isn't, and also think about some of the myths surrounding hypnobirthing, and answer some of the frequently asked questions that I'm asked all the time. So that's the idea of this little live. So, the first things first, what is hypnobirthing? Whenever I talk about hypnobirthing, I always start with the worst thing about hypnobirthing, and that is, without a shadow of the doubt, the word hypnobirthing. As soon as you hear the word hypno in anything, most people jump immediately to the idea of stage hypnosis, clucking like chickens, being out of control, doing crazy things, which is the last thing that you want when you're having your baby. Um, Thinking a little bit about that word hypno, it's not stage hypnosis, it's hypnotherapy. And within hypnobirthing, we use hypnotherapy in two different ways. First of all, it's we learn how to get into a deep state of relaxation, because when we're giving birth, that is the state that we would prefer to be in. When we're having a baby, our body releases a cocktail of hormones to make the whole process comfortable and swift. And the way that our body releases that is when we are in a relaxed state. And for a lot of us, relaxation really doesn't come very easily at all. So we learn how to get into a deep state of relaxation. The second way that we use hypnotherapy is in the more traditional sense of the word, hypnotherapy. So if you've ever used hypnotherapy, or if you know people who've used hypnotherapy for stopping smoking, releasing anxiety, getting rid of phobias, that sort of hypnotherapy uses language. And what it's doing is thinking about smoking or our anxieties or our phobias in a different way. And using that language, we can think about it in a more positive way, and we can eradicate the fear. And within the hypnobirthing program, that is how we're using hypnotherapy. It's using language to think about birth in a different way. For most of us, birth is a scary, scary prospect. If you look around at the stories we share, if you look at the media around birth, for most of us, we have this idea that it is an ordeal that we've got to get through before we can have the prize of holding our baby. And because we hold so much fear around birth, we use hypnotherapy techniques to try and um, think about birth in a different way. Birth doesn't have to be scary. And so we approach birth in a different way. So using the hypnotherapy, that's how we use hypnotherapy. So that, in conjunction with the relaxation, is really at the core of everything that we do within hypnobirthing. So it's learning to get into a deep state of relaxation so that our body can do what it needs to do during labor and birth, and also releasing any fears, building confidence in the running up to birth, so that our body can give birth comfortably and swiftly. So that's a little bit about what hypnobirthing is. Now looking at what hypnobirthing isn't, because these are things that we hear all the time as hypnobirthing teachers. First of all, we are not a method of pain relief. Often, if you go to antenatal classes, we're lumped in with pain relief, but we are not a method of pain relief, and we are not a bunch of techniques for birth. Actually, a lot of what we do within hypnobirthing is in preparation. So it's while we're pregnant, or even before we're pregnant, thinking about birth in a different way, preparing and practicing the techniques as well, so that when we go into labour, we don't actually have to do anything. We can bring in all of the things that we've already learned during our pregnancy, and then allow our body to do what it would do naturally. So we are not a method of pain relief, and we are not about the techniques for birth itself. Some parents do use the techniques at birth, but that's not really the important bit. It's the thinking about we get to the prepare mentally so that we know what to expect. We know the questions that we can ask. We know all of the different things that we can do should things change along the way as well. So that's a little bit about what hypnobirthing is not. Most hypnobirthing courses out there are a complete antenatal course. Within the class, within the course, you will learn the physiology of birth. What is your body trying to do during labour and birth? Because then when we understand what our body is trying to do, how it works optimally, we can work with it. And again, that's where the relaxation comes in, because we can go with what our body is doing rather than working against it, releasing adrenaline, which counteracts that cocktail of hormones that I was talking about earlier. So we learn about the physiology of birth. We also learn how to release any fears, anxieties, worries that we may have. And we might not even be aware that we have those fears. I certainly know that before being pregnant with my first daughter, wouldn't have ever classed myself as a fearful person. But when I was pregnant and thinking about giving birth, I suddenly realized that everything that I'd ever heard about birth was scary. Every birth story was an emergency, was a terrifying ordeal. And so obviously that was playing into how I approached labour and birth. So we learn to release any of those fears and worries. We also learn within our courses about the choices and options that you have so that you can approach birth calmly, confidently, so that you know what you can do all the way through, the choices and options that you've got.